So, today we're diving into a really troubling story coming out of Jaipur, Rajasthan. But this is about more than just a single tragic event. It's a powerful case study in what happens when a crisis is met with silence and how that creates a dangerous information vacuum that gets filled with, well, something else entirely.
And that really gets to the heart of what we're exploring. We have a top-tier school, a terrible tragedy, and a whole lot of missing facts. In a situation like this, we expect clarity, right? We expect answers. But what happens when you don't get them? That silence, it doesn't just stay silent. It becomes the story itself.
It's a story of two completely opposite pictures, really. On one hand, you have this award-winning school, a place with a stellar reputation. And on the other hand, you have a tragic, unexplained death that just seems to clash with everything that reputation is built on. The contrast is, well, it's jarring.
Okay, so to really understand the weight of this situation, we first need to get a clear picture of the institution at the center of it all. Before the tragedy, who were they? Let's kind of set the baseline.
So we're talking about the Neerja Modi School, or NMS. It's been around since 2001. It's a pretty well-known private K-12 school, a place recognized for strong academics, its community work with a program called Nishjay, and a whole bunch of awards. By all accounts, this was a prominent and very respected name in education. And from that solid reputation, the story takes a sharp, tragic turn. Now, amidst all the rumors and the noise, there is one core, undisputed fact that we need to focus on. Here's what we know for sure. In November of 2025, a sixth-grade student tragically died after falling from an upper floor of the school building. This right here, this is the bedrock fact that everything else revolves around. It's the starting point for all the questions and, as we'll see, all the allegations. But here's where things get really complicated. With the official channels apparently going quiet, the story didn't just stop. Of course not. It moved online. So this next part is all about the narrative that started bubbling up on platforms like Reddit, specifically because of that official silence. So what exactly is the story that people are telling online? When official sources go dark, a different kind of narrative always emerges, one that's pieced together from all these unverified accounts. Let's take a look at what that story says. For instance, here's a quote from a Reddit post that paints one possible picture. It describes a student heading to a lab, a simple slip, and then a devastating fall. It lays out a narrative of a heartbreaking, tragic accident. But we have to remember, this is an unverified account from online.
But then, in that same social media thread, the allegations take a much, much darker turn. This is a very serious claim that the school actively delayed a police investigation by locking its doors. This one comment completely shifts the story from a possible accident to potential obstruction.
And it didn't stop there. The online chatter just kept growing with more claims that the site of the incident was cleaned up, that evidence like bloodstains was removed, that parents weren't told until much later, and even that the schools suggested suicide as a possible cause. Now, it is absolutely crucial to say this again. These are all unverified allegations coming from online discussions. And that right there, that brings us to the very heart of this problem. You've got this loud, detailed, and frankly disturbing narrative building up online. And on the other side, official silence. Let's really break down the massive holes in the official record. This is the fundamental issue, isn't it? A total flood of troubling allegations coming from the public met with a complete drought of official verified facts from the institutions involved. And that kind of imbalance, it just breeds suspicion and completely erodes trust. So, what are the big question marks hanging over this whole thing? Well, for starters, what were the exact circumstances of the fall? We still don't have an official account. We have no confirmed timeline of what the school did and when they did it. We can't find any public report from the police or the education department, and there's been no official word on whether safety issues might have been a factor. These aren't minor details. This is the story. So you might be thinking, okay, this is one tragic incident at one school. Why does it matter on a bigger scale? Well, the thing is, this story isn't just about this one school. It taps into some really big issues that affect all of us. When you peel back the layers here, you see this case touches on three huge themes. First, institutional responsibility and why transparency is absolutely non-negotiable in a crisis.
Second, it's about the fundamentals of child welfare and having rock-solid safety protocols in place. And third, it's a perfect example of the modern-day battle between the fast spread of information and the dangerous spread of misinformation.
So, if you find yourself in a situation like this, where everything is murky and confusing, what can you actually do? Well, the path forward really requires a focus on facts. That means trying to find primary documents, like police reports, searching for any official findings from an inquiry, and probably most important, learning to be critical, to really scrutinize your sources and separate an allegation from an established truth.
Look, if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this. Nature abhors a vacuum, right? Well, so does a public crisis. When the people in charge don't provide facts, you can bet that speculation, rumor, and allegations will rush in to fill that empty space. It's almost like a law of nature.
And that leaves us with one last, really important question to think about. In a crisis, when the institutions we are supposed to trust for answers choose to be silent, who ends up controlling the story? Who gets to decide what the truth is? And what happens when the narrative is owned by the crowd instead of the official record?